Yeah.
I was like really wanting to die and made a plan to die, but because I was like going through the calendar to pick a date, and I was like, oh well.
I'm like, if I fuck up, I don't need you to come to me and be like, "Oh, Josh, you kind of messed up today." I'm like, ring me and say, "What's going on, dickhead? Like, what are you doing?" Like,
Yeah. But then like October, I hit the pinnacle of a mental health crisis and was
okay,
just like in profound darkness. It was like all of my attempts at processing that trauma started to pile up.
yeah, I'll say it louder for the bitches in the back. Fuck you.
Or like, eat that fucking dozen donuts, girl. You need that. You know, like whatever behavior it's in, like enabling you to like make bad choices.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Let's Get Chattin podcast. As always, I am Josh. I am here. We are vibing and thriving and chilling and doing all the good bits. Firstly, before I get into anything, I want to apologize for the lack of episodes. Basically, I've been moving house. I've been super busy. So I know I said this last time, but then other shit happened and I'm just like, boom, boom, boom. But we are back on track, baby. I promise you all now, Tuesdays, 7 a.m., you're all going to have me in your ears every week. That's a promise from me to you. And yeah, if that makes sense. Anyway, today we've got Malisa with us. I will say about Malisa, before even getting into anything about Malisa, I've been talking to Malisa off podcast for like a little bit now, and she is a cool cat. I would say anyway, like she's cool, man. So we're gonna get into it. But yeah, I mean, as I start, this is always about like telling your story. Okay. We want to know how you got where you are, why you got where you are, that sort of thing, and what people who have been in sticky situations or whatnot can learn from you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. But before any of that, how are you? How's it? How are you?
I'm good. It's like 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon here. I didn't wake up until like 10:30, and believe it or not, I'm still kind of in that wake up zone, but mostly because my daughter was holding me hostage looking at Barbie shit online that she wanted to buy. I didn't get my full morning decompress, and I'm also, having some allergies, so like my eyes are watering, but otherwise I'm really good.
I feel you with the allergies, man. I get hay fever so bad over here. It's and I find my allergies and my like I'm ginger, right? So my allergies and my sunburn in other countries just doesn't
Mm,
like I don't when I come over to America, I can be in Tennessee and Tennessee's hot as shit. I don't burn. Over here, if it
really?
gets yeah, and over here if it gets half that heat, I'm like red like a lobster. It's nuts.
Oh my goodness. I tend to notice that. So actually my son, who's very redheaded, would argue with me, and it really annoys the piss out of me, but my natural hair color is actually red. It's like,
Okay.
you remember, well, you're younger than me, but you know Jennifer Aniston from Friends, that season, like those early seasons, that auburn color of hair, that's my natural color.
Name me a
But
man over the age of 20 who doesn't know who Jennifer Aniston is. Let's be real.
but that time frame is very specific because she got the Jennifer Aniston, she got the
hmm
Rachel haircut, she got the whatever. The Rachel haircut, when she got that, is what my hair used to look like. But anyway, I actually, the older I get, the less I burn, I think. But I'm also pretty smart about sunscreen here. But in terms of allergies, I'm noticing when the seasons shift,
hmm
whatever is now pollinating is not my friend. Because, like, I'm noticing every morning I'm waking up with just like gross eyes. And this
Yeah.
happened when we transitioned into spring, too. So I
It's
guess my eyes
gunky.
don't like transition.
Them gunky eyes are the worst as well because you're waking up like I feel like sometimes I literally have to like pull my eyes apart and I'm like,
Yeah.
I need to
Yeah.
see.
No, that happens to me too. And so like I have to go like just now I like hurried and washed my face and stuff, and I like put this stuff on my eyes, and I was just having to like gently get it off cuz they were just full of goop.
No, I feel you on that. Honestly, 100%. So for the listeners, obviously, because this is a very much UK based podcast,
Oh, is it? Okay,
you're,
cool.
you, well, I guess so. I'd imagine so. Most of my listeners, I don't know. They're all over the world, but anyway, they probably may not know who you are. So where are you from? Where is it in America? I know you're in America, but where in America is it that you are?
I live in Oklahoma, which
You
means a
said
lot
that
of
with like
different.
shame.
Yeah, I feel that because I don't know, lots of stuff we won't get into, but I've lived here my whole life actually, and only
hmm
in the last year have I even remotely considered not living here. But I'm also like
Okay.
one of those people with so much trauma that I'm like, no, your children just have to like stay where you put them. You know what I mean? So
I
like
feel you. Yeah.
my youngest is only 11, so I'm like, we're here for a while longer. But yeah, so I live in Oklahoma, and I don't live that far from where I grew up, like probably
Ah,
20
that's cool.
minutes. Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, I live 10 minutes from where I grew up. I've moved like 3 times in the past year though, so it's been like
Yes, you
fucking
have, you poor
crazy.
thing.
It's been a nightmare, honestly. Um, so obviously your work with Emotionally Unavailable, your podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of like, I suppose, who you are and what drives the podcast?
Yeah. Initially, I got the idea for that name and kind of the drive of the show because I'd kind of just discovered a year prior to starting it that I was emotionally unavailable.
hmm
I say this all the time and it seems like a bit, but it's true. Like I'm kind of a person perpetually addicted to the internet, and so like I'll take quizzes all the fucking time, just like, oh, okay,
Okay.
yeah. And this quiz happened to be like, are you emotionally unavailable? And I mean, I've taken like, is your spouse abusive? Knowing my spouse is not abusive, but I'll still
Yeah,
take the
yeah.
quiz. What if I'm missing something? I don't know. So anyway, this one really was. I really didn't take this because I thought I was going to learn more about myself, but the results were that I was emotionally unavailable, and I was like, "What?" Just so affronted, and I texted a colleague of mine, and I was like, do you think I'm emotionally unavailable? And she's like, yeah, I do. And I
Can
was
you
like,
believe this shit?
yeah. And now I'm mad at her. I'm so mad at her. I'm so serious. Like this is who I was in that former version of me, truly, because I was pissed. I was like, oh, really? Really? Okay. Can you give me some examples? Because this is brand new information for me. Okay. And I was just so pissed. And she's like, well, for starters, the way you retell your trauma, she could not have hurt me worse with that because I was like, I am so funny. Like, are you
hmm
shitting me? Because I've always retold my trauma like a comedian would, because that's kind
hmm
of, I mean, I watched comedians who did that. When you grow up in trauma, you sometimes develop a dark sense of humor, so my siblings and
100%.
I, we were super used to that. And I got used to sharing those parts of me in that way. Now I realize so that I could be accepted for that. Like I'm funny
Yeah.
and whatever. And I feel like we're bonding because you know more about me. But if you laugh when I tell you about it versus actually showing sympathy or empathy, then I can handle that. But at the time, I was like super turned off by anybody who would hear those things and be sad for me. Like I was like, I got
Yeah.
the ick. I couldn't be their friend anymore, literally. Like I hated them after that. I mean, now I understand all the ways that, I was trying to protect myself. But yeah, so I learned I was emotionally unavailable and I started kind of just working on that was like in May of that year, and I kind of started working on it through
Yeah.
the summer and just like learning to be more vulnerable is where I was starting. But then like October I hit the pinnacle of a mental health crisis and was
Okay.
just like in profound darkness. It was like all of my attempts at processing that trauma started to pile up and show me all of the ways that it did impact me, because I kind of just had no idea that the things I was experiencing were directly related to the trauma I had experienced. So
Yeah.
I was like really wanting to die and made a plan to die, but because I was like going through the calendar to pick a date, and I was like, oh, well, I don't want to do it here because it's too close to this kid's birthday, or not here because it's, and then we got the holidays, blah, blah. So I picked a date that was like 10 months away from where we were. And because I had made the decision, the pressure was off. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so within a few days, I, now that that whole, like, I had to wait. So, like, it gave me a little bit of time to, like, process what I was actually planning to do. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that. But like, if I want to live, something has to change. And I don't know
Yeah.
what yet because I didn't have half of the information that I have now. So I was just kind of moving pieces of my life. And part of that was accessing a creativity I didn't really know I had, but working hard at it. And then as the months moved on, quitting the job that I knew was really bad for me, the people that I was around that were bad for me, things like that, and then started my show. And it's really been honestly my journey to becoming more emotionally available, because even though I can process my trauma much better now,
Yeah.
the vulnerability piece and the sharing my shit piece in real time and asking for help and all the things that being emotionally available really lends itself to, that's the stuff I'm still working on hard right now, like in real time. So that's kind of, I mean, I talked to a lot of different people about a lot of different things like healing modalities and whatever. But yeah, I mean, I would say it really is about me.
Yeah, I think I can be kind of similar in a sense of like, I suppose it's with the podcast and who I speak to, and I'm sure it's the same with you. Like you're learning bits from every person you speak to, which is improving you as a person, right?
Yes.
Um, and I find that super helpful because it's sort of a sense of you're putting something out there which is there to help other people, but at the same time you're helping yourself. So it's like a double whammy, isn't it? You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, and what would you say is like the biggest lesson you've learned? Like just talking to somebody. Like if you were to go, okay, cool. I speak to this many people, but this one thing stood out to me. Is there anything that stands out?
Absolutely. One of my earliest guests, actually, because I don't know if you had this problem, but early days getting guests was rough. People that you
Hmm.
would have never guessed would like respond so negatively did. And I was like, well, fuck you. Anyway,
Yeah, I'll say it louder for the bitches at the back. Fuck you.
I was so upset by that. Like, and I was real unhealed when I first started this podcast. So, like,
Hmm.
I was like real taking it personal shit. Like, oh, okay, right. All right. Anyway, so it was kind of tough, but I met this person through my husband. I was on Facebook and I saw people you may know thing, and something said click on it, so I did. And I was like, oh, she's related to my husband somehow, but I don't know very much of his extended family. But I still like looked at her shit, and one of the only public posts that she had was about her own journey in mental
Hmm.
health. And I was like, oh, something said reach out. And so I did. And I messaged her and I said, hi, I have this show. This is kind of what I'm hoping to do. I'd love to have you on, blah, blah, blah. She came on, and she changed my entire life, because what she did is introduced me to the Finding Peace method. But like, I purchased a book called the Finding Peace Workbook. She works with the guy, Troy Love, who created this. And he helps you to understand like those attachment wounds in a really simple way. It's really just about understand how they were created, so that when you feel like that's what's being triggered, you understand why that's coming up and how
Yeah.
to release it. Like, he doesn't necessarily give the how to release, because that's a whole separate set of shit. I understood then, because like, so one of the things that I had really struggled with in life was this feeling of betrayal by people. And I
Hmm.
started to
Yeah.
understand like, it's just what's being triggered, and that's okay. But also a difference between I feel betrayed and you betrayed me. And I started to understand we're all just running around loving each other in the way we want to be loved. But
Yeah.
every act that we do within that space is us creating this social contract full of expectations
Yeah.
that we never voice, because a lot of times they're not even conscious expectations. And then when they're not met, betrayed, ultimate betrayal. So that's why I was running around feeling like that all the time, and understanding too why I would freak out every time something happened, like at home, and he just happened to be at work. I couldn't tell you any of the time something happened when he was home to take care of it. But, and I know there's plenty, but I could tell you
Mm-hmm.
lots of times when I was left alone to deal with something because it really triggered this neglect wound I have. So, kind of understanding that, but more importantly for me, it taught me how to quiet the noise in my brain, because a lot of his work is around shame, and he breaks shame down into different archetypes. So like there's this one archetype, the judge, that just comes in and is like, Melissa, you know better than that. You knew better and yet you did it anyway. You're not a good person, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Enter, for me, my biggest shadow of shame was called the royal. And it would jump right on that judge's ass and be like, hey, we wouldn't have done that if they hadn't done such and such and such and such. And then the
Okay.
judge
Yeah.
would be like, okay, but like, you know better than that. Like, that's not true. So those were my two archetypes that I worked the most with. But the thing is that was actual conversations happening in my head all the time, all in my voice. There's other ones too, like the rebel that will come in and be like, you really should just go ahead and buy that. I know you don't have the money, but you deserve it. You've earned it. Or eat that
I think
entire
we've all
dozen.
got
Yeah, but that's a shadow of shame. That's a way we self-sabotage ourselves. And
that.
like,
Yeah.
or like, eat that fucking dozen donuts, girl. You need that. You know, like whatever behavior it's in, like enabling you to like make bad choices, that
Yeah.
is a piece of your shame fueling the behavior. So, like, understanding all of that, I was like, oh my God, because I thought I was going crazy, because even though it was one voice and it was my voice, it was arguing all the time. And that's what made me want to die, because I was like, oh, like, because I was staying in this really tense place and
Yeah.
just reacting to everyone, just super reactive. And like I thought I was just an angry person or a mean person, and I didn't understand what was happening and why it was happening. So understanding all of that, boy, once I started working on that, I mean, the next step for me really was learning how to release the shit once it was triggered and I worked through it. How do I now expel the energy out of my body? But that piece right there of quieting the noise in my brain, because I knew what the noise was, changed everything for me.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds a bit like the angel and the devil on your shoulder. You know, is sort of that. That's sort of what vibes I'm getting sort of from that. And with regards to that, did you find there was like one like particular version or voice that you listened to, or was it like you were trying to react and listen to both of them, and that's where it became like, whoa,
Um, well, I would say that the royal that blamed everyone around me for my behavior was probably the one that like I latched onto the most, because that was really a part of that tension and aggression,
sure,
and you know what I mean? And I mean,
yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
very tense and very aggressive and just pissed all the time. And it did, because the judge hurts your heart so bad. And I wasn't prepared or accustomed to actually feeling anything. So the
Yeah.
royal made it so easy to just shove it down and be like, oh, not my fault. And, you know, something that I talk about a lot when I do talks is like, that may not resonate, but if you look at this on like a bigger scale or a macro level, the way that will look is you see any fucking tragedy in the news, and then people's first response is, well, they should have been wearing a seatbelt. Oh, they
Yeah,
should have been doing
yeah.
this. Oh, okay. Those things might be true, but why was that your first reaction? And your first reaction wasn't, oh my God, that is tragic, and feel that hurt.
I would suggest, although you just mentioned that it may not resonate with people, I would probably think it resonates with like 90% of the people. I believe, because everybody is the first person to is passing blame at the end of the day. You
Mm-hmm.
know, everybody does that. No one is willing to sit there and be like, all right, cool. If it's a personal situation, no one's willing to sit there and be like, okay, cool. What's my part in this? You know,
Right.
and
Right. Well,
That
because they
is,
don't know what to do with that, right?
yeah,
Like, it's, I can understand that what I was doing was, I can't believe I made that mistake. I'm dealing with perfectionism. You know what I mean? So
yeah, yeah,
like if you are not equipped to sit in love and compassion for yourself no matter what, then of course the default is I can't feel like I've made some sort of error. And
hmm,
really another way to say it is I couldn't handle when the pain I caused somebody else was being reflected back at me. So like this
yeah,
is why oftentimes in friendships and relationships you see people um trying to do what their therapist tells them to do and say, "Hey, when you I feel," and then the other person's like, "Well, do you know what you do?" or changes the subject completely,
deflecting
whatever.
it straight to the other person.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
And because I did that so much, I can have so much compassion for people responding really fucking dumb when I make a confrontation. You know what I
hmm,
mean? Like I know why that happens and I'm not going to take that personally. I said what I needed to say. I didn't say
yeah,
that so that you would change your behavior. I said it because something was coming up and I needed to say it. I Boundaries aren't about other people, they're about me. So I'm saying it and then I watch and I respond and I see how I need to move accordingly. But like I'm okay if you don't respond perfectly the first time, because oftentimes if you give people that grace or that compassion to be kind of stupid at first when you first like express yourself, and by the way, I don't really like the when you I feel, I think that's way too much accountability on the other person. I'm
yeah.
more of like a this is what's coming up for me, because they didn't cause that shit. Like that was a trigger from something that experienced before. Usually, I'm talking in very broad
Yeah,
terms, but
yeah, no,
you know
of
what I'm
course.
saying? You're still putting responsibility on this other person. And you're in essence asking them to change something. And that's just not the way relationships are supposed to work. Like I need this or I expect this. That's just not as much as we have taught people these little formulas for communication. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I can also see why nobody's responding appropriately when you do it. So, yeah, I just kind of like give them the minute that we all deserve to react really poorly, and then it's that next minute when they go, "Whew, okay, I don't know why I responded that way. Like all you were saying was this." You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like and
yeah.
and also it's real easy for me to forgive it because I do that too. I do it too. So, why am I going to hold them to a standard that I shouldn't hold myself to, and I'm not going to hold myself to that perfectionist standard. People need compassion and grace to make mistakes because that's the grace you should be giving yourself.
And also with like the making the mistakes is how you learn, right? Like if you're
Mhm.
not if you don't make mistakes, you're never going to learn anything new, how to act in the future, or how to even, if you have one instance where you do something or you respond to something in a way and you're like, fuck, I should not have said that. Well, you're never going to know you should not have said that until you've actually said that.
No, that's so true. That's a perfect way to say that. Yeah, you're not,
and,
because
and
you don't
people
even
aren't
know how
willing
it
to accept
feels
that.
for you to say something until you said it for the first time, let alone
Exactly.
how other people are going to receive it. It's kind of like when you're sitting around and you're creating something like an intro to a podcast or whatever. You kind of have to try it and then
Yeah.
listen to it and see how it goes. I mean, you'd hate to put that first draft on as a product and then get a bunch of shitty feedback and then change it. But that's how communication is. That's what we're expecting, that you should be able to draft, release the first draft, and then only that be perfect. No, it's not going
I,
to be perfect.
I would say life is trial and error in every aspect of life. Look, most people. No, I know there are obviously the odd people who they meet a girl when they're 14 and they're with them forever. If not, you have multiple relationships until you meet the one. You do mock exams in school. Why do you do mock exams? Because it's trial and error. All of
Mm-hmm.
these things are here to like. And I think that there should be a bit more maybe emphasis on that in the education system. Is like, look, it's okay to fuck up as long as you learn from that shit. Because even if you fail like what we would call like a mock exam, or I guess you guys have like pop quizzes and shit, but like if you fail that, where is a conversation where they're having, look, I know you fucked up, I know you failed, but that that's actually it in a sense is a good thing, because you're now learning that failure is something that you can build upon, you know And I do believe in life that's something we all need to stand for, is it's okay to fuck up as long as you learn from it.
Yeah, and that's so much of the work I'm doing is learning to first cultivate this love for yourself and acceptance for yourself and have this unconditional compassion and positive regard for yourself. And then understanding being healed, being great, all of the things,
Mm-hmm.
and especially the buzzwords that we go for, doesn't ever mean you're going to be perfect. And I know on the face of those words, we go, well, obviously we're not going to be perfect. I find ways every single day that I'm upset with myself just because it wasn't perfect. That's the
Yeah.
great thing about having a podcast is like I process by speaking. So like I'll be talking to someone and they'll be like, "Yeah, and it was okay that you weren't perfect at that." And I'm like, "You're right. That's what I was upset at, is that I wasn't perfect at that." You like I find ways every single day that I'm still holding myself to this cross of perfectionism. And that's okay. I just need to see it. So it's hard to see sometimes because it's really sneaky, especially when you've done like as much work as I have on myself and you think you've looked at every little dark corner of yourself. It's these are patterns of behavior that are going to come up the rest of my life. And that's why like I've created a very extensive, a very good and useful toolbox, but I'm still going to need to use those tools.
Yeah.
Maybe not as often, maybe not in a grandiose way, but maybe I will. For instance, one of the things that I hated so fucking much about myself before was like what a bitch I am to my husband and like how much I take everything out on him. I still do that shit, like that's the thing is I still do that. Like I'm trying real hard, but I do it. You know what I mean? I do it. And I'm not like happy that I do it, but I'm not going to beat myself up over it. I'm not going to. It's a much lower scale than it used to be. I think you would say I'm a little nicer. I hope so. I kind of want to call him in and ask, but like, I'm still a bitch. You know what I mean? I'm still a
I feel
bitch.
you.
I'm
It's
just
so
being
funny.
really real about this. I'm still a bitch
That's
sometimes.
hilarious.
And
I
that's
think
that.
it was the pause that got me. It was like da 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 boom, and I still am, bitch. Hilarious. No, but
No,
it's
but it's
true.
so true. It's
It's
so true. And you know
true.
what? Like why I wanted to kill myself? Because sometimes I yelled at my kids. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
God. I wasn't perfect as a mother. Guess what? I'm still gonna yell and cuss sometimes.
Yeah, no, we all
You
do, and I
know?
think do you think like I depending on what how long ago was it that you were going through the situation? And the reason I ask is because I think social media plays a massive part on this perfection syndrome that everybody has.
Mm-hmm.
I call it Love Island syndrome,
Yeah.
where you see all this shit on fucking Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and it's like it could be anything from a man or a woman with the perfect body to a man and a woman with a perfect family to the perfect car to the
Mm-hmm.
perfect house. And it's like you wake up and you're like, oh, my child hasn't done 4 backflips today and I don't earn 100 grand a year.
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on with my life? And you're like, take a fucking step back, bro, and just
Mm-hmm.
think. Focus on yourself, not what other people are saying. Was do you feel like that was anything that played into that side of it?
Well, I think most of it was probably programming from childhood, but
Mm-hmm.
as you were saying that, I guess I didn't even realize that because I kind of was introduced to the concept of PTSD back in like 2016
Right.
because I was born in 1980. So the only education we ever received about that was in about 95 to 98 PTSD in veterans. That was it. That was the only
Yeah.
time people talked about trauma. And I'm talking as a central theme. Like, I get that in Eastern cultures, they fucking had this shit nailed down and we should have listened a long ass
Mm-hmm.
time ago. But I'm saying for me, especially in Oklahoma, with what limited outside knowledge we had, like, we just didn't hear that stuff. And so, like, it was the first time I was really understanding, like, you're not a bad person and you are this way because of the things that happened in childhood. It was my first introduction to the fact that though I had believed in my entire adult life that my childhood hadn't impacted me, that it certainly had. And that's why a lot of these things were happening. But because of that, I started following a bunch of personal development kind of people.
Yeah.
And as you were saying that, I realized as I'm scrolling through that, because I got to where I really curated my Instagram feed to reflect that. Like, that's kind of all I wanted to see. It is not anybody's fault, but I am just realizing for the first time in real time that what I was doing is I was receiving a message. These are the things you need to fix about yourself. This is what
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, you're not good enough until, and I
Like
understand
judging
that was
yourself upon
nobody's
other
message,
people.
but yeah, I'm like, oh, especially when people would put it like, this is why I'm so fucking honest about, I'm still a bitch, I still yell, I'll cuss at my kid without thinking about
Mm-hmm.
it, whatever, is because I would hear stories like, I remember a time when, and now I this. Baby, quit your lying. You still fucking do that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. And what I was internalizing is that they completely rid themselves of all of those things. No,
Yeah.
you didn't. And I'm gonna make sure I'm really careful about that too from now on, that I'm not saying, like, in the things I write, I'm very open about this when I speak, but when I write, I want to make sure I'm not framing anything like, and then it completely went away, because it didn't.
Yeah, yeah.
What went away was my self-hatred, and that's the part that really makes people uncomfortable, because, like me saying, yeah, I sometimes yell and cuss at my kids and I'm okay with that, doesn't mean I'm not, like, actively working to, regulate my nervous system so that I do that less, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. That doesn't mean that. It also doesn't mean that I don't care at all that, like, I can see when I hurt my husband's feelings. I do care, and I work on it little by little by little. But what I'm not going to do is sit and spend 2 hours beating the shit out of myself and thinking I need to die because I'm never going to get better. That's
Yeah, yeah.
why. And to answer the first question, this all really reached the pinnacle in October of 2023, and then I
Okay.
spent like January to May just trying to get through it, and then May is when I met that lady on my show.
Okay.
So
Okay.
May of 2024 to now is really like the most growth that I've had.
No, it's such an. I think like the social media construct is such an interesting conversation. Because like for me, it's like I'm I'm into. I've always been into the gym. Have I been to the gym the whole time? Definitely not. But it's the same thing with anything. It's like you see these guys, they post these pictures on the gym. They're absolutely, excuse that, they're absolutely shredded. They're absolutely massive, and they got the physique that everybody dreams of. And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, if you can do 60 sit-ups a day and do this and do, they don't tell you that they're on steroids. They
Yep.
don't have a job. They have no misses. They've got nothing. All they do is go to the gym, and
Mm-hmm.
they're unhappy because they can't eat anything and all this shit. And
Right.
they don't tell you this. And there's so much. And this is why with this podcast, I try to be as open as I possibly can. It's like I'm like try to be my true self,
Mm-hmm.
and there's times, and I'm open about this as well. I don't always practice what I preach. I've always been great
Sure.
at giving advice. Sometimes I'm shit at following my own advice.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's like I'd rather somebody do as I say, not as I do. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I find it really funny when you're mentioning about like swearing around children and stuff, because me and my fiance, we're going through this battle at the moment where like she's American, so she swears a lot more than me. I think it's just
Oh,
an
really?
American thing. She's like, everything is like, we'll be driving in the car and she's like, fuck, man, fuck, fuck, fuck. And I'm like, babe, the kid's in the car. Can we tone it down? And she's like, yeah, all right. 10 seconds later, fuck, fuck, fuck. And I'm, babe, you know?
My husband was raised Mormon, so he does not cuss that much at
Oh,
all, and he
shit.
fucking hates that I cuss so much. Like, he's not Mormon now, like he doesn't really have a belief system, but he it just actually we were commenting, my oldest son and I were commenting the other day that he's like started cussing a little more, and I'm like, I don't know if it's because he's just sick of us and our shit, or if like it's because he's heard it so much throughout the last like 15 years.
Yeah, but at the same time, you're like, you know what you were getting into, bitch.
Yeah, exactly. No, hey, that's true. Like, I wasn't, and actually, I was a train wreck when this man met me. Okay, he's lucky that I've improved to the level I have. You got what you asked for, honey.
I'm
You
waiting for
got
the
what you asked
Netflix
for.
documentary Trainwrecked Melissa.
Baby, It might, just keep waiting because it might be there one day. Because whoo, it was bad. I mean, it was bad. I met him like as I was. Let me not try to paint myself in any kind of pretty light here. Emotionally separated from my first husband, but not physically. Like he knew, we had agreed we were going to divorce, but we were still living together because like I had been a stay-at-home mom. I'm trying to find like a job. I had my master's degree then and whatever, but I was trying to find a job and figure out childcare for the kids, all that stuff. But I was not anywhere that far along in the divorce process when I met this man.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that probably summarizes. And I was like drinking all the time and, just not good. And when I say drinking all the time, I mean to excess. Like I was shit-faced a lot. So I was a fucking wreck whenever. And I smoked like 3 packs of cigarettes a day. I was just a wreck. And I probably cussed even more then than I do now. So, yeah, he knew what he was getting. I don't know. I sometimes am like, honey, if you wanted, I guess he wasn't really picturing like, if or when we had a child together, because I had my 2 boys coming into the relationship, and so he just thought, oh, he'll be a good positive influence on their life, but he didn't really think about us having like a daughter together and whether or not I'd be the example he wanted to set for her.
He's like, oh shit, there's another one.
Yeah, I'm like, listen, if you wanted some sweet little Mormon to raise your child, you should have married a sweet little Mormon.
Exactly that. Amen to that for sure. It's funny you should say that actually. When I met my fiance, she was still living with her ex fella.
There you go.
But I just bust in there like a big man, like, yeah, hello, I'm Josh, and that's it. It's fucking done deal, mate. Send a bet. But anyway, less about that. I've spoken about that way too many times. Obviously, reading your profile, you mentioned about the ACE score. Now, there's going to be people who are listening, watching, me, myself as well. I actually have no idea what that is. Can you explain it a little bit and what the scoring is and all that sort of stuff?
Okay, I have a very limited knowledge about this.
It's better than my 0.
I learned about it when I worked in education. It's ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and the way it was developed was, let's put the core elements of trauma that you can experience in childhood. It's not scaled, like it's not like one trauma is bigger than the other, but these are the most common childhood experiences that are traumatic that can occur. And the original questionnaire was like 10 questions. And if you had experienced more than 3, I think, then that says that you are, I'm not going to make up numbers here, but that you are statistically this much more likely to have these particular set of issues. I'm not wording that very well, but it was like, hey, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that it was developed for educators so that they could understand what these children are kind of going through and how it would impact their ability to learn. I might be wrong about that. That's just where I learned about it. But so it's things like, were you physically abused? Were you sexually abused? Did you have a parent, or were your parents divorced? Did you have a parent incarcerated? Did you have a sibling incarcerated? And those are the only ones I remember. But there's 10 questions, and I met the criteria for all 10. They have changed the questionnaires a little bit now. There can be more questions, less questions, whatever. But it really is just a way to encapsulate, like, this person's gone through a lot of shit, like me having a 10 out of 10 score was kind of the first time that I realized, oh
shit,
not everybody goes through that, I knew, but I didn't know, because I also was surrounded by people like experiencing what I was going through, or what I believed to be worse than what I was going through. Because I was lucky in that I had a grandma that we kind of lived with to be a stabilizing force. She had her own set of issues and was, had a lot of narcissistic traits, but she was very stable. And so we did a lot of back and forth between like my mom and her, because
Yeah.
my mom would be like, okay, I'm going to give this sobriety thing a shot. I'm going to take my kids back. I mean, like, you should never give a person their children when they've been sober for 5 minutes. Like, that just
Nah,
isn't,
nah.
and so, like, we would bear the responsibility of, like, we drove mom to do it again. Damn. Like, there was so many times she'd be like, okay, let's go. And then within like 6 hours, she's already really fucked up and whatever, because she just couldn't handle it. So we
Yeah.
went back and forth. But because I had this stable home life at my grandma's, even though there was not a single day without chaos because of my parents and then later because of my brothers,
Mm-hmm.
I got really used to minimalizing and trivializing my experiences. And I think anyone in my generation and older, we were all taught that. Like, rub some dirt on it, walk it off. Like, that's not,
Yeah.
hey, no, you ain't got it worse than anybody else, blah, 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 blah. And, like, why did we ever even need to make the comparison? Why can't it just be like, that sucks for you? And
Yeah.
I think that I've seen that over and over and over. People still comparing their pain and thinking that there's a scale for pain. I don't think we need to do that. I think you just go, that hurts, and you feel it and you move through it. We don't need to tell ourselves not to feel shit because somebody else has it worse.
Yeah, I,
And
I, I agree. Like, the first thing to say is big up the grandmas, because I live with my nan and she was like literally the glue of the family, And it's
mm-hmm.
funny you mentioned about, like, it was chaos because like your parents or your brothers, because my grandparents were exactly the same. I had, let's say I had me living with my grandparents, love my, rest in peace, Nan, love you. My grandma, my granddad, and they were like old school, but like had good jobs, had a lovely home, brought up their children like perfectly fine. Nothing ever happened. Don't get me wrong. There was shit that went on in a relationship, like it goes on in most relationships. My granddad wasn't a perfect guy, but it's like I was there and it was stable, but it was like my uncle and my mum who were the instability in the family, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you guys that are older people, what the fuck is going on? I had an uncle who was addicted to cocaine and an alcoholic mother who were constantly going to my grandparents, who were also my security blanket, my saviors. So that it was. I get where you're coming from there. um and also with like the traumas as well, you say like people people measure different things in, and it shouldn't be a comparison. It's like, let's say I had a friend who suffered physical abuse. Okay. Now I genuinely believe like sexual abuse from a family member is probably the worst thing that can ever happen, and I do think that is a level above, if I'm being totally honest.
Yeah.
But let's say we're talking about like physical abuse. Okay. And I've opened up to my friends and been like, yeah, when I was a kid, like someone broke into my house and tried to kidnap me, and no one believes it. They're like, what the fuck is going? Like, what, are you joking?
Yeah.
But that to me is like that, because it happened to me. I'm like, yeah, it just happened. It's chill. Like, it happened, but it didn't happen. And I think when you actually start to talk to people about childhood trauma and you open up and you're willing to talk about it, and you can see other people's reactions to it, I think that's where you fully understand what actually happened. And you takes you a couple of minutes, but you take a step back and you're like, oh fuck. You
Mm-hmm.
know? Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah, and I think it's the first time that we come back to what that feeling really was when it happened, because we spend years building those protective layers so that we're
Mm-hmm.
not confronted with the truth of how they impacted us. And in my case, I was keeping all those layers between me and everyone around me, because I didn't want them to see that either. I didn't want to see it.
Yeah.
I didn't want them to see it. Even though I craved being really known, every time people would say positive things about me, I'd be like, yeah, but if you really knew me, you wouldn't say that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, I think that moment where you go, oh, that it kind of was a big deal. It can make or break you. If you didn't have the right tools, you're either going to completely shut down and be like, oh, forget it. Nope, nope, nope,
Mm-hmm.
nope, nope. Or you can self destruct, or you can just go, wow, what is there more there? Like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't even realize.
I live it all out in comedy. That's the way I deal with my things. Like you were mentioning earlier, it's like I don't know if it's the right way to do it, but like I always use like the see. I don't when I talk about the whole like nearly kidnapped situation. I don't see it as a bit like genuinely to me, it's not a big deal. Like it's so strange. It's like to I know my parents listen to this, but fuck it. So basically, my mum and dad owed someone money for drugs or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Drug dealer broke into house, locked my mum into a bathroom, beat my dad up with baseball bats, and tried to take me. Now, to me, I'm like, yeah, it happened. It's not that. It's like I genuinely, I'm like, yeah, it's like fuck it, it happened. It's not that big of a deal, but it is, isn't it? You
It
know?
is. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not like that guest that will come on and be like, let me just challenge you, Josh. But let me just say this. Okay. How old were you?
I was like 3, 4, so I have a very
Okay.
vivid memory.
Uh-huh. So let me break it down in a different way. You are at home where
Mm-hmm.
you're supposed to be safe, but you probably already had a lot of chaos and like disruptions and interruptions and whatever, right? But
Mm-hmm.
home is supposed to be your safety, but you've already up to this point been taught it's not because it was inconsistent and chaotic. And then someone fucking breaks into your house where you live that's supposed to be safe and tries to take you. And you know that it's quote unquote your parents' fault. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like I get the whole layers of addiction and whatever. So like, shout out to parents, they're doing their best. But like, yeah. I would
But
say
it's a
that
cool
has a
story.
significant impact. It is a cool story.
Yeah, but
But
that's
I mean,
that's the way I
if
look at
you
it.
resonate with the fact that, and I used to do that too. I used to do it too. I love to tell those stories. I've got similar ones. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I can still tell them in a funny way. Actually, I really can't anymore because now I'm really connected to the experience. Whereas before, when I would tell them, let me know if this resonates. When I would tell them, it was like, because I'm a visual person in my brain when I'm
Yeah,
talking,
yeah.
I would visualize it, but it's like that was happening to somebody else. It was
Mm-hmm.
totally disconnected from the experience. Whereas when I started to really come home to me, learn how to be in my body instead of my brain and be vulnerable even to myself. I can't tell those stories like a comedian now because it's not funny that I was
Mm-hmm.
beaten or, like I can tell this one because it really doesn't bother me, but like other people were horrified. My mom one time went on a little bender and she was like, you know what? She was with my dad at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, I'm gonna go to California. She had this love for California. And I'm gonna go to California. I'm gonna take the baby with me, but y'all, you're gonna go to your grandma's. I remember being in this old El Camino and my
Mm-hmm.
mom driving erratically, her vodka bottle even falling into the floorboard by her feet, swerving while she's trying to reach for the vodka bottle. And we're on my way to my grandparents because my grandparents were still together at the time. And I remember me and my older brother being like, well, Mom, you know what? We actually know how to get there from the 7-Eleven. So if you just want to drop us off there, that'd be all right. Because we're like terrified. She's driving
Yeah,
erratically
yeah, yeah.
and,
No,
and
of
she's
course.
so fucking drunk. So we're like, okay, why don't you go ahead on and just drop us off here? Because, we can walk. And then I think she was like so relieved because she's like, oh really, you think you can, you think you can
Oh
make it? And we're
shit.
like, yeah. It wasn't that far. Like we live like the block, it was less than probably half a mile, but like the
Yeah.
7-Eleven was at the front of our neighborhood. It was just a gas station. I don't know if you guys have those, but it was a
Yeah, yeah,
gas
yeah.
station at the front of our neighborhood. And you entered the neighborhood around a corner, few houses down, there's our house. So like it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't that far, but I mean, for how young we were, which was 5 and 6, pretty young to just drop us off at
Yeah,
7-Eleven.
yeah,
But she
hundred
was so
percent.
relieved because now she's also not going to have to face my grandparents.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
she drops us off. We're just like, can you fucking believe that? Like we're walking to grandma, like I always said grandmas, never grandparents, because we didn't have a relationship with our grandpa, even when he lived in the house, because he was just a god awful human being and was mean to us. So like we just
Mm-hmm.
didn't even talk to him. So I was like, all right, we're gonna go see grandma, whatever. And we're like, oh, mom is like on one, just laughing and joking, me and my older brother. We show up and they were doing yard work in the yard. We were like, hi, grandma. And she's like, hi, we're
What the
coming to live
fuck?
with you. And she's like,
Oh
what?
shit.
Yeah. And she's like, what? She's like, that's not funny. Where's your mom? And we're like, she dropped us off at 7-Eleven. She's like, that's not funny. And she's like walking to the
Mm.
end of the driveway to like look around. She's like, where's Kay? Kay! And like seriously just freaking out. She sees then my mom has made her way around the block to like make sure we made it. She sees her drive off and she was like, come in the house. But that's that we knew she would. Like
Yeah,
we
yeah.
always knew she would. That's what there was no question. We were like, drop us off, bitch. You were about to get us murdered in this car. Just drop us off. Because it was also the 80s, so like no seatbelts, we're flying
Yeah,
around,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
We're hitting windows and shit while she's just driving erratically. So to us, it was like, oh, okay, safety. But I mean, like, that's sad. I
Yeah,
can
I mean
say it
that's
and
shit.
not be
That's
affected by
shit.
it. But if I sit in the actual fear that we were feeling and the betrayal
Yeah.
and the neglect of all of that experience, I mean, I could feel the pain of it now if I wanted to, but I don't need to. But like, I know that I was purposely avoiding those feelings before when I was given my little stand up routine versus now, like, I can say that was really fucked up. But if anybody had reacted in a way that showed, like, that's kind of fucked up, that was it. That was it. I
Yeah.
couldn't ever talk to them about stuff again because I would be like, I hate that look on people's face when they're like pitying you or whatever. But
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
just seeing a part of me that I wasn't ready to see yet, you know?
Do you find like, because I always find like with stories I've got, like, I mean, I've still got a very good relationship with my parents. I'll never sit there and say like I had a great childhood. They may say
Yeah.
different because I always got what I wanted, but it was through the wrong ways of selling certain things. And you know, mum throwing knives at dad, dad punching mum, mum punching dad, mum trying
Yeah.
to kill herself 4 times, and so you know these things happen. But I can talk about these very nonchalantly and whatnot. But if somebody was telling me my life story, I would be like, what the actual fuck?
Yeah.
You know, if I could pick anything I would talk about where it's a trauma as such, I could talk about it to anybody and be like, yeah, this happened, but it is chill, it is what it is, you know. But if somebody came to me and told me that story about them, I feel like I would genuinely be like, what the fuck, like, seriously? And like feel so empathetic, and all of these feelings would come in. But I just feel like when I'm telling it, I'm like, yes, you know, it is what it
Well, let
is.
me put it this way. If they came to you and they said, Josh, I'm going to tell you this story, it's going to be really sad. So get ready for it. Like, don't let
Mm-hmm.
yourself get really upset. You'd start building the wall, right? Before
Yeah,
you
yeah.
listened, you'd be building the wall. You'd be a little more cerebral. You wouldn't be like in your heart about it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You'd be listening without internalizing it, all of those things. That is what you're doing when you tell your stories. You've built layer after layer after layer after layer to not feel when you're sharing that stuff. I mean, you're thinking, you're not feeling. If you were sharing those
Mm-hmm.
experiences from a heart space and not from a head space, it would feel completely different. So if somebody else said, prepare yourself, build all these like protective layers before I tell you something, you'd have the same response. But
And
because you're not like built up to protect yourself when someone else is telling you that, you feel.
And I suppose that's where sort of like the positives like therapy and that come in, isn't it? Where you can talk about these things in a space where you are taught to say them with your heart as opposed to your head. You know.
Well, I think, you know, I'm a therapist and I don't have people. I think to be trauma informed means we only talk about what you feel like talking about, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
I don't dredge up all of the shit. But I would say seeing how this protective factor that you built in childhood is now still the same protective factor that you're using in adulthood and how that's limiting your capacity in your relationships would be important. So, like, understanding, like being able to hear somebody else talk. Like, when I hear you talk, I hear a lot of things that you avoid. I mean, that's just that. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
like saying that in a rude way, but I
No,
can
no,
see
yeah,
where
I get
you're
that.
not like feeling shit, you're thinking shit. But that's the journey. That's what we're all doing until we learn that, and we learn how to experience feelings instead of intellectualizing our experiences. Because if you're an overthinker and you're a person who struggles with anxiety, that tells me everything I need to know, that you are a person who doesn't know how to feel. We all are that until we learn.
Do you feel like with like trauma and stuff, like I'm a very literal person, like very literal. So like, for an example, like if you said to me, I need to feel this way, and the way I would feel this way is ... I would physically do that one thing and be like, now you should feel this way. Do you feel like that avoidance and stuff can build you up to be that type of person? Like, I live life literal. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, because I think that's one way of intellectualizing things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I also think it's kind of a trauma response to see things in such a polarizing way, this or that, no in between. And one tenet of avoidance is, if I can't do it exactly how it's prescribed or laid out or explained exactly right, I'm not going to try. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
this idea of rejecting people, places, experiences, feelings before they reject us.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes so much sense. Genuinely, it makes so much sense because, like I say, I am very like it's something that's come up in my relationship in recent history. Let's say, where it's like you're very literal. Like if we're gonna do something, we have to do that thing. If we say we're gonna be this time, we have to be here this time. And also, if I say I need this, you physically only do the one thing that I've said I need, as opposed to going, use your brain and your heart and go, actually, that means this overarching situation, you know?
Yeah, but you know what that really tells me is that you don't like know yourself in that way. So like, if
Mm-hmm.
you don't know how really to meet your own needs and how to ask for help from others, you don't know how to give that. And I don't know how to word that in a way that doesn't feel like an attack.
No,
So
no,
I'm
no,
sorry
that
if it
makes
does,
sense.
but you
No,
know
no,
what
no.
like, that was my
Yeah.
journey, was to learn. First of all, I suck at asking for help, but like, I had to learn what was going on inside of me, and that is how I can know how to show up for others now, even if they suck at asking, or taking things so literally or whatever. I think you're doing very intellectual things. Like,
Yeah.
you're not applying the heart piece of that. So like, if she's like, I need help, like with this house, with the kid, whatever, then you're like, okay, what with the house, what with the kid,
Yeah.
I can
What
do,
part do you
give me
need
the
me to do?
task
Tell me.
list. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're not hearing the subtext, I guess, is what
Yeah.
that means, is like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're not hearing, oh, some neglect is coming up in you because you feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders alone, which doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be true
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
that to be the way you're feeling. That's the thing that I experienced all the time. That's something we all feel from time to time, or all the time in my case, that we have the weight of the world on our shoulders and no one to help us carry it. And that what you're going to do with the brain and the way it works with confirmation bias or negativity bias, it's going to look for every single way it can confirm that to you, so that you will constantly feel like you are alone, because somewhere you learned asking for help isn't safe.
Mm-hmm.
Inviting people into your struggle isn't safe. So she doesn't have the words to say, I just feel like I don't have any support. And you don't understand that because it's not like a confrontation you've had within yourself. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. No, that
again, it's
makes
just,
total
you're
sense.
intellectualizing things instead of like reading the subtext and the feelings of it, what those core narratives are.
Yeah, and it seems like that is like a quite a common sort of side effect for most men. Like when
Yeah.
you actually think about it, like most women, their complaint about the men is exactly what I just spoke about. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so with regards to like, obviously, speaking to you already, like I suppose we can kind of grasp, like, you had lack of a better term, a struggled childhood,
Mm-hmm.
growing up and whatnot. My question is like, what did you do to get, or to build yourself to where you are now? Where did the rebuilding and the recovering and the fixing of all of these things come from, and what did you do? Because I think that's the the story is important, but the ending is of such an importance for other people to understand where they can go, how they can do these things, and that's sort of the poignant part of what I'd like to sort of get to.
Yeah, like an actionable takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it really was getting the right information. So I say like working on the shame did it.
Yep.
Working on understanding that I had victimized myself in adulthood by viewing myself like nobody loved me as much as I loved them. Everybody leaves. You know, these narratives that really put me in the center as the victim,
Yep.
and stepping back and understanding like this is all just a projection of your reality that you created for yourself, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for me personally, it was getting in front of people that understood what I was experiencing. A lot of it um I think having a spirituality really helped, because
Okay.
like astrology was kind of the gateway for me, where when I started to understand like what my birth chart meant, and I saw that as like a blueprint, and my belief systems around that had started changing. Spirituality really helped me. But even in the scientific part of like quantum physics,
Yeah.
even psychology, like with the NLP stuff, just learning that what we say to ourselves matters. And
Yeah. Yeah.
but like making all of the focus on me and not anything external of me. And I think that's where we really get it wrong, is like, I need help. Okay, what does that say about me? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a friend that was like, okay, why did you attract this experience? And it used to piss me off so bad because I was triggered by that because I hadn't reached that level of consciousness yet, you know? And now it's like, okay, literally every thought, feeling, experience is just you projecting your own shit.
Yeah.
So I started to really work through, that didn't make a lot of sense to me, but I decided that's going to be true. Okay. Like,
Yeah.
okay, they know what they're talking about. That's true. So I'm going to figure out how I do this. And I just started testing it. Like, if I was mad at my husband because he, wasn't cleaning up the house or whatever, I'd be like, okay, well, if he's a mirror of me, what am I mad at myself about? Oh, I'm
Yeah.
mad at myself because I can't do it all by myself. I'm supposed to be superhuman. And as a woman, I'm supposed to be able to keep this fucking house spotless, the kids, looking great and cooking. I do none of that shit. But I believed it to be my responsibility, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
programmed to believe that. So who I was actually upset at was me, because I couldn't do it all by myself. I needed the help and I hated that shit. That was literally the entryway into, okay, if everybody's a mirror for us, how are they mirroring back myself to me? And that was probably, aside from my shame work and understanding my wounding, that right there was the concept that just blew it all wide open for me, because you start to understand their shit's about them, my shit's about me. I'm
Yeah.
not going to take anything personal, but really that comes alongside of really cultivating that self-love for yourself. Whatever resonates with you, go find somebody to study from that will teach you how the hell to love yourself, because nothing else will ever come your way if you don't love yourself. Sounds stupid, sounds corny, sounds easy, sounds reasonable, sounds logical. Okay, well, I thought I loved myself and I was covered in self hatred and shame. So you got to figure out how you're not loving yourself, because it's there. If you're not like connecting with yourself in an intimate way, you don't love yourself, period.
No, that makes total sense. I think like obviously with like the social construct side of things as well that you mentioned, like as the woman you should be doing this, doing this, doing this, doing this. It's all social constructs built up, and again that goes back to like what we spoke about before, the social media, so constructs and all of this sort of stuff. And it's like you really need to live within yourself and understand yourself, and like exactly what you just said, be yourself and just
Mm-hmm.
work on that side of it. And personally, like listen, you I feel like everybody's got their own way of dealing with things, whether you want to go to like a therapy, whether you want to do
Mm-hmm.
this or that, or personally, I genuinely believe if I was looking for a therapist, I would look for you, because you cut out the shit, you don't talk the shit, everything you say has come to me like straight talking, none of the shit. It's exactly the same thing as I say to my boss at work. I'm like, if I fuck up, I don't need you to come to me and be like, "Oh, Josh, you kind of messed up today." I'm like, ring me and say, "What's going on, dickhead? Like, what are you doing?"
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like,
Let's cut out the bullshit.
yeah,
You're not happy
yeah.
with something I did, say it, because you know, when you're entering in like that, you're triggering my shit. Let's just be real here.
I'm not
Like,
gonna
let's just
learn
be
that way,
real.
bro.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No, I mean, absolutely, that's how I feel. And I mean, this is kind of exactly how I am as a therapist. Like the first day, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
listen, I cuss a lot. I'm probably gonna vape during session. You know what I mean? Like just straight up, because I I believe that I have a gift in the way I say things. Like if
Yeah,
I were to try to water it down and be like everybody else, you would miss all of my fucking magic, you know? And even being able to say that is a part of the journey. Like getting to a place where I'm comfortable being like, "No, this is a gift I have." Like I
yeah,
do word things really well, and I do share in a way that really makes people understand. But for a while I wouldn't even say that out loud. Like I believed it, but I was like, well, you don't want to brag on yourself. It's not bragging. I mean, I'm not saying I'm better than somebody else. I'm just saying this is a gift I have. Plenty of people have that gift, you know.
yeah. I feel like if you want to be real, you need to meet real, and you need to talk to real, and that's it. Um, I mean, I've had a fucking great conversation with you tonight. It's been brilliant. I would like to just from even just talking now, like I'd like to have you on again and go a bit deeper into like your upbringing and how that affected you and how other people could learn from that. But we'll organize that. um but is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners before we dip off? If there's anything you'd like to say to the listeners and where they can find you, all your socials, I will put them in the bio, but if you could tell them, that would be great.
Yeah. I'm super active on Instagram at Melissa.Hepner. It's spelled different, Malisa. And there is my link tree to my website, to my Patreon, everything. I've just recently started a Patreon for the show. My show is emotionally unavailable. That's probably the thing that means the very most to me. But I also do like cheap little instant download workbooks.
Hmm.
Safe to be seen. I've got one about overcoming imperfection. I'm getting a lot of really positive feedback from the people who have utilized them. So that makes me really happy. But on my Patreon, there's like a really cheap level to where, because I put these out monthly, there's a cheap level to the Patreon experience that you will get whatever that month's workbook included in that membership. So you become a friend of the show and support me, and also you get some real benefit, back. But I put those out monthly. That's something I've recently started doing in the last few months, because I'm on a journey myself, like trying, not necessarily a healing journey anymore, growth, evolution, living out my purpose in whatever way feels the right way for me right then.
Hmm.
And so the workbooks felt like a very affordable way for people to get real help, because I mean, I didn't see a therapist. This has all been self-healing for me. And I don't think there's anything wrong with seeing a therapist. Obviously, I'm a therapist, but like I had a real
That'd be
mistrust in the mental
counterintuitive.
health community, like I
Yeah.
was really mistrusting, and I didn't believe anybody could help me because I hadn't met anyone like me. Now I know there's lots of people like me out there because I'm in community with them now, but like I didn't know them before.
Yeah.
So, if you're a person who maybe can't afford a therapist or whatever, these workbooks are really cheap and they are very impactful. And then I guess other than that, like all my links are right there on my link tree.
Amazing, amazing. Well, listen, everybody listening, I would severely, extraordinarily, just fucking do it. Just head over to Melissa's Instagram follow, because the worst case scenario, is you get to hear that like southern accent a little bit more, and I think that's fucking cool. So I'm all here for that shit. So that is like the lowest of the low you can get, and then if you look at the things on top of that, what you could learn and experience, you just go with that shit. All right. So if you're listening to this, listen to that, give her a follow. I appreciate everybody who's come in, listened, watched, done all the good shit with the Let's Get Chatting. And I will just end this and say again, I'd like to apologize for the lack of content and things like that. It's been a stressful, fucking crazy time for me. And I've actually had to like take a step back and think, right, Josh, what the fuck is going on? And to do that, it takes quite a big person. I've asked for help for the first time and it's been fucking needed and it worked. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to just take a step back, But ultimately, I will end this as I always end it. But first, I will tell you to like, share, and comment on this shit. Like, tell your nan about it, tell your dog about it. Like, everybody, just if you are listening, I mean, it's free to do, right? You just hit that like button, hit that comment button, hit that share button, subscribe, all the good stuff. And like I say at the end of every episode, when you see somebody and you walk up to them and you're like, yo, what's up? How you doing? Just fucking mean it. Just actually ask them how you're doing, because they could respond in a sense where you could make their day 10 times better. With that being said, I hope I've made your day 10 times better. Peace out. Love you. Bye.